speaking with Rosa, what's your last name?
Attab.
Attab and Yann Demange, who are here with a very significant film, and by no means does the runtime diminish its power or its efficiency. And I've been hearing about this ever since Locarno and TIFF, and it's really fun to see it in the context of the Red Film Festival, but also the fact, Red Sea Film Festival, but also the fact that it was paired with Origins, Ava DuVernay's film. I think that's really an interesting pairing about identity. I'm the type that would never give a shit about Blade, but now I sense that there's going to be an overlap of thematic ideas, of things that are really, really important to you. The use of the voiceover, I felt that there was two streams of consciousness with this film, and there's this embrace of beauty and ugliness together. Where did you feel most vulnerable in the process? I imagine putting it out there is one completely intimidating thing, but also the writing process and like...
The writing process is the most intimidating and vulnerable process for me. I'm not a natural writer, and I used to write all my material, and then for about the last decade at least, I haven't been writing. I just do treatments at the most, and I sort of develop closely with a writer. But here, starting to write again about something so personal, I found it very difficult to get it out, and experimenting with a form that I'm not necessarily well versed in. You know, I didn't want to do, you know, I wanted to escape from the tyranny of traditional development and traditional storytelling and cinema. It's been a burden, it's been a grind development, and I wanted to do something that felt a bit freer and that could express these things that I couldn't put in conventional sentences. And I started writing with Rosa, who's a big fan of poetry, and was showing me some poems that she had in mind, and it sort of gave us, inspired us to work in a different way and find a different language. But it was very vulnerable, it was scary, because I was like, I didn't know entirely how to express the things that we were talking about on screen. We had to find a language for it.
There is a certain lyricism here. You do use the elements. I quite like the sequences where smoke is sort of like inhaled, exhaled, partage. They're sharing this. There's also the water elements, not necessarily unique to cinema language, but here I like the fact that Riz Ahmed's character sort of like takes a plunge with somebody else. And so I was really curious I really like the idea that we somehow find a map or a GPS to our own lives when we not mirror it, but we find the equivalent in another person. And of all the biographical elements in this film, is that one thing that was invented, or that you actually had that chance to have in your own life?
Well, I mean, we're really close friends, and our friendship, in many ways, is portrayed in the film. But we fictionalized and created a love affair that helped express even the metaphor of the relationship with place and sense of home, and trying to be present and take your walls down and be vulnerable and try to have real connection. But in terms of the mirroring, if you like, and seeing oneself, Rosa and I met 2014, and she was the first time I met an Algerian in the film industry, and from Paris. And we reconnected and we started to have a dialogue, because my experience of Paris growing up, I don't go to Paris often, but I'd have a very Algerian experience of Paris. I didn't really know the other side to Paris.
You feel very much like an outsider.
Yeah, I feel very much like an outsider, but when I go to Paris also I'm an outsider. It's layered. I'm outsider being of French origin with a French passport, but then I'd go there to be with my Algerian family, and I couldn't speak Arabic, and I'd feel like I'm behind a glass wall.
Yeah.
And we spoke a lot about that because we had similar overlaps. Rosa's from Algerian heritage, and we were both in cinema. We were both trying to find a space for ourselves within the industry. And she introduced me, if you like, after 71 came out, I was invited to Paris, but a different type of Paris. I was invited out by the film industry. and Rosa was showing me around. She was like my guide to the film industry and to being Algerian in the film industry in Paris and owning a certain identity. And she was like comfortable in her skin owning in these identities, and that's very much, those sentences are very much around her.
You almost get a sense that character that you created in Sophia is perhaps there's elements of your personality or that proximity in this great professional relationship that you have and personal relationship.
Well, at some point we started to like, it was a process. She wrote a dialogue first. Rosa wrote a very personal dialogue of my life. She took it upon herself to just do it.
Which must be so intimidating and weird.
I didn't tell anyone, to be fair. I thought only you.
Yeah,
no, but when you present this to him, it's like, hey, I've been...
It was weird. It was weird.
Yeah. We were giving a free pass to do. I mean, you were giving a free pass to do a movie, and I was in Paris, and it was always to be about the Arab experience and that Paris that you usually don't see.
But it wasn't going to be about me. It was going to be.
But we had to find a door.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And she did this voiceover, and eventually I was like, all right, fuck, I'm embracing, I'm leaning in. So I started to write the voiceover. I rewrote with my voice, and I wanted it to be fragmented and conversational. And then it was at one stage, it was like, you know what, to give our writing structure after we broke the shape of it and the themes, I'd write my voiceover and she'd write Suela's voiceover. And then it became a dialogue through the writing of these two characters that we created. Because at first they were us and then it became something else. And then we needed that extra push, that little distance to be able to be free to create, you know.
I quite like the fact that these characters are sort of like dancing. They're having this dance in different shapes and forms.
In a weird way, we watched a movie. I made him watch All That Jazz, which is one of my favorites.
Yeah, 79.
Yeah, which is really one of my favorites. And then there was a bunch of Marguerite Duras films that we watched because of the voiceover, of course. But there was this question of Arab intimacy and endangering ourselves because it was very personal for both of us in a way.
Yeah,
Duras was a door at some point.
It was like, you know, taking the walls down, being vulnerable, and going there about certain things that we thematically we both feel that feels quite speaks to a lot of us, I think, and
definitely.
But finding a language for it that could express it without being too didactic about it.
There's one film that I revisit and recontextualize and look at it differently in cinema history. It's Battle of Algiers. I think if I were to watch it just this year, it would mean something different. Reading up on the film, it means something completely different to you. I actually have a proximity to it. But how do you think about that film? More or less, do you think about that film more or less like how I do? Does it mean something symbolically to you?
Yeah, I mean it's been quite well documented. I've mentioned a few times that my aunt is in the Battle of Algiers and she plants the bomb in the milk bar and she's with Ali Lapointe at the end of the film hiding out. And I didn't know that till I was in my early teens or mid-teens, and last time I went to Algeria before '91 and before the Civil War broke out, and that's when I found out like we had this legacy in the family of my aunt being in the Battle of Algiers, and I watched it and I revisit it all the time, and I agree actually. It always feels relevant somehow, and the filmmaking is just arresting, isn't it? It's just one of those mic drop moments in cinema, and then learning that I had a connection, albeit just by a relative, to that film was quite psychologically quite a shift for me. It's just like, oh right, someone in my family is part of a family of cinema history in a strange way. I mean, it's the only thing she'd ever been in. Only thing she's ever been in, she's ever done. You know, street casts, and I do a lot of street casting myself since I began as well, actually. But yeah, that film is a big, you know, it's a big thing in my life.
And it could have, on some unconscious level, informed some of the visual creative choices that you made in '71.
I mean, it wasn't unconscious in '71. It was just a blatant reference. '71, yeah, for sure. You know, Army of Shadows, Battle of Algiers, Escape from New York. These things were all present consciously, but unconsciously, of course. These are images and the sequences that stay with you and always you know, when you're plucking for your first ideas, inadvertently you always go back to these films.
Sure. What are you hoping to do with this short film? Because I think I want to say it's a message film, but it could mean so much to so many people.
I think it's just out there, exactly, and it needs to, you know, it's very specific to us, to me, but I think there's universality in that, and it's, you know, I just want people to see it, hopefully, you know. It's going to Mubi, looks like we're doing a deal with Mubi, and it's going to be on Mubi from January. I wanted to do something where I felt free and could experiment and just have a bit of a palate cleanser and fall back in love with cinema and filmmaking.
Great.
And I got that out of it, you know. And I'm very happy I've done it, you know. I'm proud of it. I want to do more things like that, and if you like, this is the first step in a process. There's a point in my life I want to do much more personal work, and this is the first step, and there's going to be more to come.
Great. Well, I love that answer. Thank you very much for this film, and yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, merci. Hey, this is Eric from IONCINEMA.com. If you want to support us, subscribe below. For more reviews, interviews, film festival coverage from Sundance, Cannes, Toronto, you want to check out these guys on this side.